So hi, One Look Around's podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
No Offense.
And we're asking some questions today about his upcoming album, Growing Up on the Internet. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Thank you. Really good. I've never done a full album. I've released 2 EPs, so I guess debut album is a big one. But yeah, no, I'm super excited by people's responses. I'm very much looking forward to it, which is out of character for me because I'm usually just nervous.
Hell yeah. The album is fucking awesome.
Incredible. Yes.
Hell yeah. Curious as to why with this record you're not feeling as nervous putting it out versus previous works.
Well, I feel like when I got signed in summer 2020, so during COVID, and I had probably written 3 or 4 songs in full, and that was it. So I have a lot more experience writing stuff. I have a lot more experience playing shows, and I know what kind of music. I guess the first 2 EPs were kind of experimenting, and I think definitely on the second EP I was more going towards what I've been doing now, but I feel like I finally figured out what the sound I like is, and it's kind of just all over the place, but in a way that kind of blends well. I'm just way more confident with the songs. We've done rehearsals, we've played them live, sounding sick, so I think it's mostly just experience, and because it's a big body of work. It just so happened that when I was writing it, everything just made sense. So everything fell into place. So I'm obviously I'm a bit nervous that I'll be underwhelmed by the response when it does come out, but I don't really set expectations high. So I'm looking forward to being pleasantly surprised if things do well.
Hell yeah. I think people will be stoked because I was listening through the record this morning. I was like, this just feels so much like Noah. This just feels like what I would expect an LP from Noah to sound like. And, I'm stoked for people to hear it.
Cheers. No, that's always nice to hear because I obviously writing an album, writing the songs, going through the mixing process, the mastering process, the artwork process, all that kind of stuff. You kind of listen to it so much that you have no idea how it actually sounds to other people. But yes, that is very nice to hear. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, so growing up on the internet, I mean, I started off online as a My Chemical Romance fan account, and that was my whole thing, and because I grew up in a very conservative boarding school, there wasn't really anybody in my life in person that was really my kind of person, so I had to go to the internet to find people like me that were both into the music that I liked and also were trans or gay or anything LGBT related, because that was very much not a thing at my school. So I pretty much lived my entire life. Sorry, I just need to plug my phone. I pretty much lived my entire life on the internet. I came out on the internet before I came out to anybody in real life. So I essentially did grow up entirely on the internet. And it was up until recently I wasn't really sure the extent of how much that had really affected my life. But now really looking back into it after going to therapy, all that kind of stuff, I've really understood the extent of how much that has changed the way that my life has been. And obviously with the rise in anti-LGBT stuff going around, I feel that both in real life and on the internet. And I think it's just it's a mishmash of, I guess, my life up until now with a focus on the internet, because that's that's where I grew an audience. That's where I'm still growing an audience. Very thankful for it, but it's a weird relationship to have, knowing that I've had 100,000, I hit 100K when I was 16.
Goddamn.
So for a long time I've been growing up in front of a lot of people and obviously searching for validation from people on the internet. So yeah, just a clusterfuck of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And any meaning behind the cover art?
Yes. So initially the cover art was gonna be, Sum 41, All Killer No Filler. It was gonna be like that, but with digital cartoon versions of me for each song. And then we did a press photo shoot for the next few singles that were coming out. And the picture of me hugging the pink TV was one of the shots for that. And I looked at it and I was like, that is entirely how I feel. Because it's I'm solemnly hugging this TV, growing up on the internet, being very perceived by thousands of like strangers on the internet. And I'm hugging it because I'm like, oh, I love this place. This is where I found my people. This is where I found my family. But it's also somewhere that has caused me like a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety. So yeah, I kind of just looked at the photo and I was like, there's no way that's not going to be the cover art. And I love the colors.
Yeah, it fits the title very well.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yes. So I'm very ADHD. So it's difficult for me to just like sit down and just like write a whole album at once. So a lot of the songs were half written in between tours. Which is I think for me that works. Most of the songs anyway, hold on. Let me start again. So most of the songs were finished and half written maybe like September last year. But before then we went in with like a good bulk of half written songs. That's usually the case of like how I write things. I'll like write a chorus, write a verse, write the general structure, get a general vibe for it, and then we'll pick out the ones that I think should be on the album. And then September, that's when we finish those up. But I wrote with a bunch of different writers, a bunch of different producers. But the majority of them were written and produced by Stefan Abingdon, who's like a really good friend of mine. We've been doing stuff forever. But yeah, we spent the whole month of September just like finishing everything up. It was very hectic because we had to finish the album before going on tour, and it was a lot. But it was fun going in for a month and feeling like, oh wait, this is actually my job and not just something that I do every now and then.
Yeah. How did you how were you able to like flip the headspaces back and forth between like the touring versus the writing and like sandwiching the writing in between touring? Because there are artists out there that have to like take time off from everything to write a record, whereas you were just like, let's just cram it in where we can. So how were you able to keep it all going at the same time?
Great question. I don't know. I get very burnt out like very easily. I think like I'm getting an autism diagnosis next week, but autistic burnout is real. Normal burnout is real, but like those two together just dead. I don't know how I managed it because I have to do like YouTube videos as well in between tour. I think it's more just like when I'm in a room with usually Steph, who produced a lot of the stuff. When we're in a room together, it's just like hanging out and like, yeah, we're writing music, but we kind of share the same brain cell. So it's not like going into a room with a producer you don't really know, you don't really get on with too well. It's more just like going to hang out with friends. I trust him with my life. He loves the stuff that we make together. So it was kind of just, we didn't have time to do it any other time. We knew when the album was going to come out, so we just had to get it done. But it was relatively painless considering, although I did get COVID and food poisoning in the same week.
Ooh,
shit, that's a combo.
Yeah, it was a combo.
Fuck. Okay.
Glad you're still alive from that one. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And so on the topic of burnout, how do you kind of manage to balance everything you're doing? You're a content creator, you're an influencer on Twitter, like fucking every social media, you make music, you tour. How do you manage to kind of take time for everything?
I don't.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's the honest truth. I feel like the last few years have been a great test as to like how much I can put up with. I've been managing a lot better, at least the end of last year and the beginning of this year. But yeah, I don't really know. I have ADHD, which means that routine is completely out of the question. If I write down what I'm going to do for the week, it's not getting done in the way that I've written it down. I guess I feel like a theme throughout my whole life is I'm motivated entirely by fear of failure, which obviously very stress inducing, but gets the job done. So yeah, I guess I just kind of have to do it. I think something that I've learned a lot is like asking people around me for help. Like I have an editor who does my YouTube videos now, which I didn't have a few years ago because I was so pedantic about everything. I have an editor. My manager is great. I can't really answer the question because I'm still struggling to figure out that whole managing everything.
It just kind of happens. It just by a miracle you're able to get everything done. Basically, is where it's at.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Hell yeah. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Yeah. Oh, geez, this is hard. Personal favorite changes every single day or every week. For a long time growing up on the internet was my favorite, but now it's been out for longer. It's like, oh, we know that one. I think currently right now it's Subtitles. Because we've been playing that in rehearsals, and I just the second verse, I think is the favorite second verse that I've ever written, and I wrote it on the toilet in like 3 minutes.
Nice.
So every time I play it, I'm like, that's good, and also I wrote it while shitting. So I just think that association makes it my favorite. I think the longest one to write, I don't know. I mean, like, songs don't really take too long for me to write. It's more just like actually recording them in one go is the hardest part. I think Gibberish, no, I Know Better. I think maybe that was the longest because I started writing that in December 2022. And it's like the longest song that I've released, and there's loads of different parts. And I think we wrote it over the space of like months. Yeah, probably I Know Better.
Yeah. All right.
Hell yeah. So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, so that was initially when we wrote Growing Up on the Internet. That was when I knew that that's what I wanted the album to be about, because there were like demos that I was writing that was like vaguely around that subject. But when we wrote Growing Up on the Internet, I'm like, that's it. I initially wanted that to be an opener, and then I wrote Kinda Love It. And I don't know, as soon as I started writing it, I was like, this song doesn't need to be any longer than it is. I don't need to say anything more than I've said. And it's slower than any other song I've written. So I feel like that is like in terms of like openers, I feel like that's something that people wouldn't expect from me, because like all my music is like fast, let's go. Whereas this one is like, it's kind of like a journey. Like it builds and then it builds and then it stops and then it builds again to like a massive crescendo. So like the first few hours after writing that, I was like, that's just got to be the opener. And then the closer, we initially were gonna have Lovely Ladies as a closer, because I love the idea of, because it's a song about how I explain it to people is like, it is a song from the perspective of what conservatives think trans people are. So it's like, I'm this big scary trans villain that's gonna come and trans your kids. And initially I was like, yeah,
it's just fucking crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Yeah. And initially I was like, that would be such a cool closer, because people aren't going to expect it. Like, they've heard all like the auto tune throughout the album, like the produced stuff, and then Lovely Ladies is just like this fast, just punk beat. Yeah. And I just thought it would be great to have the closer be like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck did I just listen to? But then when we finished up Gibberish, I feel like it felt really reflective. And not just of the album, but just like musically, it just felt like, I don't know how to explain it. It made me feel like I was listening to the song and looking back on my life. So that just ended up being the closer, and Steph, who produced it, added the really cool, like, warpy stuff at the end that I think worked perfectly as a closer.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you were creating this record?
Oh God, yeah. All over the place. Jesus. Yeah. So like a lot of the songs are about being undiagnosed autistic. I had my first assessment 2 days ago, and she was like, yeah, you got the autism, but we can't write you a letter yet because we have to do 2 more appointments. Like a lot of the songs were, I was in a headspace where I was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me, even though I know I'm autistic, but I don't want to take that label without a formal diagnosis, just because I feel I wouldn't want to do that, because I get stuck on things, which is, symptom of autism or whatever. But then a lot of it again was about like being burnt out. When I wrote I Know Better, that was probably like, I was in a really not great place when I was writing that, because I could feel myself kind of heading towards a mental breakdown. I could see myself doing stuff that I know was self-destructive, but I almost just didn't care about that anymore. So there's a few songs on the album that are just about a bit of a head fuck. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I want you to tell me what's wrong with me. I know I'm doing things that make my life worse, but I can't stop myself doing that. But then there's other songs on it with like Rise and Grind it's just it's just a song about hating networking and hating the social media algorithm and all the social media guys that are kind of like rise and grind. Yeah, let's chase this algorithm. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Like, I will be whatever the algorithm wants me to be. And obviously, growing up on the internet, I grew my audience kind of organically. I kind of just posted whatever I want, and people seem to engage with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess my headspace was just all over the place. It's mostly, a lot of it is, oh shit, I'm autistic. Oh shit, I'm tired. Oh shit, transphobes piss me off, because there are a few songs on there that are just entirely like, fuck you for hating me, but I kind of find it hilarious. And yeah, it's all over the place, really.
Seems like it. All right.
Wow, a mixed bag. Yeah. I love it. I fucking love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you do it in the car with friends, in dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Oh, good question. I mean, I still haven't listened to it in a car yet because I can't drive.
That's
but
fair,
but when I listen to it, like, I've never listened to like a body of work that I've made like on purpose by choice. Like, I would never put my old EPs on and be like, whoa, good job. But I have been doing that with the album. I've actually been like getting on the train and just like looking out the window and listening to it. But yeah, I definitely recommend car. That would be so fucking cool. I'd love to listen to it in a car really fast with my friends. Or yeah, just like headphones, nobody else around. I feel like it really works as like a body of work, so I wouldn't want people to like skip and go back and forth. But yeah, listen to it in the intended track list, because there is a reason that it's that way. Like 3-Day Headache being the third song, ending with I'm Waiting on a Breakdown, going into I Know Better, which is entirely about having a breakdown. Like it fits thematically. So yeah, listen in a row, headphones, or in a car with your friends.
All right.
Yeah. Sounds good. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
A bit much.
Damn.
That was very fast.
Yeah, there you go. Fuck.
Left us speechless. Typically, it's not that fast.
Yeah, typically it's like 5 minutes.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
So like it's hard to like talk about that without being like, I want kids to feel inspired. But kind of just like, the thing for me is that I've never really written songs for other people. I've written them entirely for myself. But like, after growing the audience, after meeting the people that like listen to my music, it's like it's way more important for me now to like think about the fact that they're going to be relating to these songs. So I think I want people to take away from it is like, you should be angry about the things you're angry about. That you're not alone being angry about those things. And I also like, I never really had a thing when I was younger growing up being like, oh, I wish I had a trans person that I could look up to represent me, because that wasn't even a thought, because I didn't really know what being trans was. But the fact that there are like 3 songs on this album that are just about the state of transphobia nowadays, I'd love for cis people to listen to it and actually look into it and be reflective of like the world that they're living in. I want trans people to listen to it and be like, fuck yeah, I know you released that song when you were 18 about wanting to die because you were trans, but now we got 3 more songs about being angry and pissed off, and they're also bops. And I guess like the whole thing is just like there's a lot of songs about autism, about feeling different. I know that's the thing that a lot of my audience relate to, but also like, just like, I want them to be mad, to be honest, because I think there's a lot of stuff to be mad about, and there's a lot of complacency nowadays. And I've never tried to be like political, but I think inherently, because of who I am, the music kind of has to be like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, if you want it to be true and authentic and to actually connect with the people that like gravitated towards you first, you gotta be. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah, fuck yeah. So are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Yeah. Standout Lovely Ladies is always going to be a standout one for me. Do you know the band McFly?
McFly? I do not. I mean, it sounds incredibly familiar.
Yeah, so they're huge in the UK and Europe. I don't think they've ever played a tour in the US, but they like, I grew up as a kid like listening to McFly, and we wrote Lovely Ladies together with McFly. And they're like a pop. Yeah. They're like a pop rock band. So like they don't have breakdowns. And just the fact that I went in the studio with them for 4 days, I explained what TERFs are. I explained the state of transphobia. I went into also the J.K. Rowling stuff.
Shit, yeah.
But that was a real fun time because they were so receptive to it and they were so down to just write the most insane shit. So I think that's always going to be one of my favorite memories in terms of writing. I mean, like I think standout moments is just being exhausted. I think definitely getting not to be TMI, getting food poisoning, shitting the bed, and then having to call my manager, being like, so I just shit my bed. I can't go into the studio today. So like that would definitely
it's a wild phone call to make.
Dude, it was, and I was like, I was aware that it was funny, but I was in such a bad state that I was like, don't laugh at me. But yeah, that's definitely a standout moment.
All right. All right.
Sure. Hell yeah. And being able to work with McFly, a band that you've been listening to forever, they're massive in the UK. Firstly, how did that happen? And then kind of what was the energy in that room when you guys finally got together?
So I first met them, the second ever show I played was a festival that they were headlining. So I spoke to them a few times there, and then I don't know, I guess it's obviously different in the US, but in terms of the UK music scene, like if you live in London and you make music, you will have mutual friends with everybody. So I have a few friends that have produced for them or written with them, and I think my manager just sent me an email being like, hey, do you want to write a song with them? And I was like, yeah, of course. And the energy in the room was great. They're just like, because they're so experienced, they've been around for like a long time. But they're still so in love with what they do. They're still so enthusiastic about it. There are a lot of people that you go to the studio with them and they're quite jaded and they don't really give a shit. The energy was really nice. Like the first thing we did was like they showed me around their studio and then they just asked me a bunch of questions about like what I do day to day and what are my likes and what music do I listen to. And like we sat and listened to some of My Chemical Romance's first album. Just because like Our Lady of Sorrows was definitely a big inspiration for Lovely Ladies. So we just sat, talked about music, wrote a song. There was no rush or any pressure to get anything really recorded or anything for certain that was going to be on the album. It was just really relaxed. So yeah, that was just a really fun time because like I put a lot of pressure on myself. So to be in that situation where they're like, look, if the label are chasing you, your manager's chasing you, that's cool, that's fine, but they're not the one writing the music. And if we don't have a song, we don't have a song. They can't force that out of us.
Exactly.
So it was really fun.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Amazing.
So for the last couple of questions, we're going to shift completely away from music. So if you could be one animal for the rest of your life, what animal would you be and why?
Fuck. Shit. I was gonna say, oh god. Good question. Can't be a rat because
this is a rat.
Important shit. I fucking love rats.
Okay.
But I can't because they only live 2.5 years. The rest of my life, 2.5 years. No, don't know how long raccoons live. I know it's sad, isn't it? Maybe monkey. I'd be a gorilla.
Oh,
I'd love to be a gorilla.
A gorilla.
I like how they just. Sorry, that's probably not the answer you're expecting, but yeah, I like gorillas.
All right, we'll take it.
Gorillas are tight. That's cool. All right. And if you could have lunch with any celebrity or artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, Dave Grohl.
Yeah,
I love Dave Grohl. Is why he's so cool. He's like was in Nirvana, insane, so cool. He's in Foo Fighters, insane, so cool. Then Crooked Vultures, I love. He seems like just the nicest guy. I feel like we get on. So yeah, Dave Grohl.
All right.
Great pick. Yeah.
And for this last question, boom, you're on a desert island. You can bring one movie, one album, and one person. Who and what are you bringing?
Fuck. Okay. Movie would be Forrest Gump. I love Forrest Gump. It's his whole life story. It's funny. It's emotional. Love it. Person, probably my boyfriend. He cooks for me every night. I also love him. So
works out.
Don't worry about food. And album, that is a fucking hard one, isn't it? Because it would have to cover all kind of vibes. I mean, I've been really obsessed with Dominic Fike's Sunburn.
Ooh.
So maybe that. I mean, I'm looking at like my wall. I've got like MCR albums everywhere. But if I'm on a desert island, I think I'm not gonna want to be listening to 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. So probably Sunburn by Dominic Fike.
All right. Sounds good. So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah. So new album, Growing Up on the Internet, coming out March 8th. I've got a UK tour in a few weeks supporting Enter Shikari, which will be really fun, playing not stadiums, arenas.
Fucking crazy.
And then I've got my headline tour of the US in March and April with Chase Petra, TX2, and Teenage Jones. We're playing 23 shows, so if you live in the US, there's probably one near you.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, thank you for now. It's been No Offense, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.